Hey guys, welcome to the Rebirth Podcast. I want to thank you guys for watching and for listening. In this podcast, we talk to individuals that have had to reinvent, recreate, and reimagine in order to grow. But before you watch and listen, I want to remind you to subscribe, to like, to review, and to share this episode and this podcast with everyone that you know. Thank you so much and enjoy. All right, so welcome back here. This is a Father's Day episode of the Rebirth Podcast, and I decided to have on this Father's Day episode two people that are very important to me. We're going to start with one, Dan Vargas, who is become a father figure to me, he's become a mentor, is my best friend, and has been a huge reason as to why I am the man that I am today, but more importantly, why I am the father that I am today and how I continue to strive to be even a better father. So I figured let's bring in the guy. He was on a previous episode, so if you haven't heard his story and his rebirth, you can go check that out. But this is gonna be specifically about Father's Day. And I know for you, Dan, that you, growing up, your father figure was, a little icy at times. I mean, can you talk about the challenges there?
Really, as growing up, I really didn't. My dad was around, but he really wasn't around. Right. So, for those of you that have gone through divorce or your parents aren't together, my dad was a weekend dad.
Okay.
At the best.
Yeah.
He wasn't always there, and so for me, I learned more from male role models that appeared in my life later on, especially a lot later on, especially like. I'd say one of the very first ones that showed me a lot of kindness and was there for me was my art teacher in middle school and high school, Mr. Jeff Law. When I was in middle school, I had a hard time adjusting and always didn't feel like I fit in. I didn't have a lot of friends and so forth. Mm-hmm. So I really dove into my artwork and was really into doing my art. And Mr. Law helped me express that.
A teacher named Mr. Law.
Helped me express that.
I'd be afraid of this guy.
Oh,
was he mean?
No.
So he just walks into the room. Imagine like he sets the tone for the first day.
He was young and hip. He wasn't an old teacher. He was real young and hip.
So he wasn't coming in like, my name's Mr. Law, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit.
Totally opposite. He was easygoing, clowning around.
Okay.
It's kind of like you. So maybe that's why we hit it off later in life, because. But no, he was just really cool and really invested in talking to me and let me express myself through my art and stuff. And it got to a point where I'd come into his room at lunchtime or at the end of school or before school and kind of just go in there and do my thing. And he would talk to me and showed concern. So it was somebody that was interested in who I was. And I think where I really started to develop more role models was when I went into the military. I kind of went in the military to get away from home, get away from my home life, home situation. I was trying to go to school and trying to get into the police department. And Houston shut down the police department for 2 years because of money issues, and they froze, hiring freeze. So I was like, what's the best way to get some experience? Go in the military. So I was going to go to the military, finish college, come back and be a police officer. Right. Ended up loving it. And I think the reason I loved it is because it was a sense of family, sense of camaraderie. I've had amazing supervisors, amazing leaders I got to work for, and I saw them and who they were with their kids and how they led young men.
Right.
And I think that helped me develop a lot of my parental skills. And then I think you just have to make a choice too. There was a time in my life where, you decide who you really want to be. Do I want to repeat the same cycle, or do I want to get off the merry-go-round and start something new?
Yeah, I know. And I've heard you talk about not only your relationship with your father, and as you referred to, sometimes being a weekend dad, but I know your mother also dated other men. You had stepdads, and as far as like the figure there, they weren't necessarily the strongest at times. So like, you're prior to joining the military, prior to Mr. Law. Mm-hmm. And then the military, like your example of a man and a role model was pretty misconstrued, right? Like it just wasn't like the solid thing of what it is now, right? Like,
no.
I mean, it was...
No, there was no basis. I mean, my mom, To get into the family dysfunctionality, my mom had an affair with the doctor that delivered my youngest brother, and ended up marrying him. And that was my stepdad. And my stepdad had kids from a prior relationships, and because of that, I suffered some sexual abuse. And then my mom, after my stepfather committed suicide, and we found him, we went through all that. And, my mom, after that, ended up dating around, and then she dated an alcoholic who pulled a knife on me. So I really never had a man that I felt secure with, safe with. And it really amazes me that me, my brothers, and my sisters have turned out the way we have. I mean, we've all had our own baggage, and we have to deal with it and get over it. But for the most part, none of us are in prison. None of us is a serial killer. None of us is, are drugged out or alcoholed out. We survived, and we have kids of our own. And I think the biggest thing we've taken away from it is I have one daughter, and Rainey, and she's my heart and soul. And we had her through infertility through the military. So I used to joke with everybody that she was Air Force issued. Yeah. But I never wanted my child.
Do you ever think about returning her? Because if
there was a couple of times.
Because when the military issues you something, there's a return date, right?
There was a couple of times she pushed me to the brink, but we survived that. But I just never wanted my child to go through what I went through.
Right.
Ever. I never wanted her to. I tell you this all the time. Your child should never have to sacrifice for you. They didn't ask to be born. You decided to have them. Regardless, you have a child. You should sacrifice for your child. Your child should never have to sacrifice for you. And I never wanted her to sacrifice for me. My whole life growing up with my parents, we were forced to sacrifice for them. Their needs came first. And that's something that always stuck with me, that I would never put my child through that.
But was that something that you just all of a sudden one day said, I'm not going to put my child through that if I have kids one day? Or was that mentality developed through this example of other role models and seeing other men with their children? You understand what did you just all of a sudden, like as a teenager or as a young adult one day say, I'm never going to put my children through that?
I used to say that to myself as a kid. I used to say to myself as a kid that I would never, if I ever have kids, I'm never going to do this to them.
So this started early.
Yeah, it started young. I really believe that, I believe, and we talked about people, I think there comes a fork in your road where you decide either I'm going to be a survivor or I'm going to be a victim.
Right.
What am I going to do? What am I willing to do to survive? To get over the hump and get past the things that you feel like either holding you back or a burden on you.
Right.
And a lot of people decide, well, I was treated that way. That's the way I'm just going to be, and I'm just going to complain about it the whole life and carry that burden with me. One thing I think I've done my whole life is, okay, excuse my language, shit happens. Let's get over it and let's move on.
Right.
And I think you notice that with me, especially the older I've gotten. I just it's time to move on. It happened. What can we do about it? Let's find the positive out of it and let's move on.
Right.
And I started that very young. I mean, one of the main reasons I joined the military was, I didn't join to do it as a career. I was going to do it to get college and get away from home.
Right.
My two choices. It wasn't about patriotism at the time. I mean, I love this country, don't get me wrong, but at the time it was my out.
Right.
And then once I got in, I was like, this is where I want to be.
Yeah.
I could do 20 years easy with doing this stuff. I love it.
One of the things, and you've heard me tell this story, and I probably shared it on the episode where you and I were, talking about your story and your experience. But, I always tell people that how, as a young man, like I had a lot of this anger and a lot of pain inside. I had healed physically and I had not healed emotionally or mentally. And, you were the first male that said to me, I love you. And prior to that night, that turning point in my life when, I was to be completely honest, I was being an ass and I was acting out because I was just unleashing all of this pain onto everybody and anybody. And you're the one that sat me in the passenger seat of your car and you said, man, you need to cry. And I obviously that was such a turning point for my life period in many ways. One, because I was able to cry and I was able to be vulnerable and you never judged me. You never critiqued me. You instead just sat there patiently and listened. But the biggest thing that I took away from that experience was every time you and I would have a conversation before that, you would always tell me you love me. And I always thought it was like, all right, cool. Like, it's funny how, Belle with her friend, they have this thing, the two girls, they're like, yeah, we have a handshake, because that's what the boys do at school. And I was like, one day, I was like, well, show me this handshake. What do the boys do? And they go up to each other like this. They go, dude, bro. And they go and they do this. And they're like, yeah, bro. Yeah, like do that. And I laugh about it because it's cute the way that they do it. But I think about that. I'm like, well, that's the way these young girls are seeing young boys. And that's the way these young boys are potentially seeing maybe the male figures in their life, show love to each other. And so when you were the one telling me like, I love you, and I was like, okay. Like, I think I posted something on one of the on Instagram where I was like, okay, got you. Cool. But why, like, where did you get this, because you were like, I got to tell you I love you. Like, where did you learn to tell another man I love you, like, and not be in this, traditional way where guys typically think about that and they're like, oh, that's weird.
Therapy. The one thing I can't say for my dad that he did do for me is I cried out for help when I was 17. I was 17 years old and I was suicidal. And I had played high school football, busted up my knee, had surgery. The doctor gave me a bunch of pain pills. Living at home with my mom. My mom was very neurotic, very personality disorder. I mean, just on me. And I just had enough. I had enough, and I was going to kill myself. I was going to take pills that night and kill myself. And I remember my dad was in New Mexico at the time working. And my dad called to say hi and stuff, and I just said, bye, this is it. I said, bye. And I guess he just understood my voice, and he drove all the way back home and got me. And I never forget her name, Dr. Brody. He took me to see Dr. Brody. Little short Jewish woman, probably in her 60s, and that was my therapist. And it was good for me to see a woman there because a lot of my issues, not just with my dad, but more of my issues, especially as a male, was with my mother. Oh. The mother issues. So having a female therapist for me helped a lot overcoming those issues with women, with a lot of the issues I had with women. Because my mom was the type of person is, as a parent, you should love your child unconditionally. Right. With my daughter, no matter what she does, she could be Jeffrey Dahmer. I'm not going to agree with it. I'm not going to like it. I'm not going to condone it. But I'm going to still love my child. Right. That's my child. Right. I never got that from my parent. And I always tell you this phrase, trying to please my mom and trying to get her to love me was like trying to fill the Grand Canyon with a water pistol. Yeah. It was never going to happen. And until I learned that in therapy, that no matter what I do, I'm never going to earn her love. And that's okay. That's okay. I can put up boundaries between her. I can love her. But I can't have these high expectations of her giving back what I'm looking for. I'll find it elsewhere. And she's the one that taught me to say, I love you. To say, if you love somebody, to tell them. It's okay to love somebody. It's okay to tell people you love them. So growing up, I was also real sensitive. I've always been real sensitive. And I always was the one that was trying to please my parents and trying to do everything to do things right. And so I just learned to always express myself. I've always expressed myself by that hugging too. I don't do the man hug. Right. If I'm gonna hug you, I'm gonna give you a real hug. Yeah. The old-fashioned hug. That's just who I am. That's what I've always done with you. With you, when I first met you, you were hurting physically, but I think I felt that you were hurting more emotionally. And it wasn't just getting to know you and seeing how you were, that you used comedy a lot to hide your pain and hide your...
I'm very funny, just so you know.
It's all right.
I'm pretty funny.
He's all right.
He's been telling me for years I should do stand-up.
You actually should.
So you wouldn't tell me that if I'm kind of funny.
But back then...
You can't be that friend that tells you, go on American Idol, you can kind of sing. Because then, you go in there and you embarrass yourself. You wouldn't tell me you're kind of...
But unless I enjoy seeing you painfully flop.
Then we should call that therapist again. Because that's a problem.
But there was just something about you that... And when it would come out that I know that you're really hurting is when you drank. Your anger would come out when you drank. Your anger and hostility would come out. And I really felt... And the more we got to know each other, we come to find out is because when you're young... You're always being the adult. Right. You were always the adult in your relationships. You were the adult with your mom. You were the adult taking care of your mom. You were the adult making adult decisions to move to Dalton to play football, to join the Army. You were having to make adult decisions since you were a kid. And all of a sudden here you are, JR, that got injured, and you're like, well, who's there for me now?
Right.
Who's there for me now? You want to be a motivational speaker, and what was your biggest thing and your biggest argument? Well, these groups that I've always supported aren't supporting me to do that, to get over the hump. And what did I tell you? You got to do it for yourself. Right. No one's going to do it for you. You're going to have to do it. I'll be there to support you and help you, but you're going to have to do it.
Yeah.
And I think I just noticed those things, and like we talk about now, I don't want to get is I saw.
Are you gonna
cry? I might. I almost said a word again. I saw a lot of who I was at that age in you, where you were at that age, and I think that's just where we gravitated towards each other. Because come on, we're yin and yang when it comes to 17 years apart.
Yep.
You listen to hip hop and rap, and I listen to country music and and old rock and roll, Bob Seger. The
I
Eagles.
love Bob Seger though.
I know, but I listen to Americana country music,
yeah,
and
true.
so when people see us and they see us together, like,
like
odd couple,
how does
big
this
time.
work? Yeah.
We are definitely the odd couple, but they're like, then they understand.
Right.
And it was just a point, going back to my childhood, I love my parents, and I forgive them for who they were because they had some crazy upbringings. The older I got, and the more I understood, and the more I found out. Because, especially my dad didn't talk a lot about his upbringing. I learned more thanks to Facebook and his relatives through Facebook about him than I did through him. Yeah.
About his own upbringing and the challenges.
His own upbringing and stuff. Yeah. He was the youngest out of 19 kids, and he was basically raised by his sisters, not even by his mother.
That's like taking Netflix and chilling to a whole nother level.
Oh, big time.
19 kids.
Yeah, big time.
They didn't watch any movies or any shows.
But he wasn't raised by his parents.
Yeah.
He was raised by his sisters, basically. And then my mother came from alcoholic parents. Her mother was an alcoholic, and they sent her off to boarding school. She really didn't have that love around her all the time.
Right.
So, and I'm sure there's going to be things of Rainey. Rainey's going to be. I love my dad, but I don't like this part of him, and I want to do better. And that's part of because kids don't come with a manual. They don't tell you right off the bat. Here, follow this directly and things will work out. It doesn't work that way.
What is one of the biggest things that you felt like you've learned, as you just said, there is no manual, right? You're uniquely, adjusting to your child who has his or her own personality. But what if there is one thing, if you could identify one thing or two things, whatever, it can be 7, I don't care. But if there are a few things that come to mind that you've really tried to either incorporate or what you've learned from Rainey, from being a father, because you were the one that told me. I remember when I called you and I was like, "What's up, Uncle Dan?" And you're like, "Why are you calling me Uncle Dan?" And I was like, "Well," and then you're like, "What?" And then I remember I was in a hotel room and I called you and I told you, and you said, and you still remind me of this, that Belle and whatever future children you have, JR, are going to be your greatest teachers. They're going to teach you so much. What has Rainey taught you through fatherhood?
Patience. Patience, big time, number one.
Yeah.
Having patience with them. Let them make their mistakes. And I've always told Rainey that as long as it's a mistake you can recover from, you can learn from it. Don't make a mistake that you can't recover from. Don't make a huge mistake that's going to alter your life forever. And loving unconditionally. They're your children. They're your kids. You need to be there for them.
Right.
You don't have to, like I said, you don't have to always agree with what their decisions are. You don't have to always agree the route they're taking, but be there for them.
Right.
And I think the other thing is, and I think as parents that we need to do this, is don't coddle them, and hard love are two of the biggest things. Because I think parents today want to give everything to their kids, good or bad, give everything to them and want to coddle them and get them through life and not let them learn. And I think that really hurts them.
Right.
You're not preparing for real life, because real life don't care.
Right.
Real life don't care. You get on the real world, it's going to chew you up and spit you out. It doesn't care about you.
Right.
The world don't care. And then hard love. When they screw up, you need to be the one to say, "Hey, no, it's time to face the storm. Let's get through the storm. You're going to have to face it, and let's deal with it and move on." And once they get past that, you don't have to bring it up anymore.
Right.
Don't keep throwing their mistakes into their face. Once sorry is done and the mistake is corrected, move on. Let it go.
So as far as like you're as a parent, right? Like there's this misconception, and this is one of the things that I struggle with, that I've identified, that saying sorry for me is a challenge, because my mother would tell me when I was a kid that parents aren't supposed to apologize to their children. And I remember asking her, I forgot what age I was, and I was like, why is that? And she said, well, because if you apologize to your children, then you appear to be weak, and your children then take advantage of you. And I just remember as a kid thinking like that's not right, because you should, everybody makes mistakes, right? Like, Mom, you're constantly telling me nobody's perfect, so why would you think you are? You make mistakes. And I just remember that didn't register with me as a child. And now as an adult and having my own child, and one of the things that I have gone to her and said is like, I'm sorry, right? Like, if I make a mistake. Yeah. Is that something you equally incorporated into your relationship with Rainey? And what do you feel? Because you see, like, I'm still like in the early stages of fatherhood, right? I got a 9-year-old, one's on the way, and well, who knows what'll happen after that. But you have a 22-year-old. Like, she's 22 years old. How have you seen that play? What are the long-term effects of you establishing this element of vulnerability with your child and saying, listen, Daddy's not perfect. Daddy made a mistake. I'm sorry. Have you seen that yet?
Oh, yeah. But I did it early on, like you did with Belle. I mean, when I was going through my divorce, and you know this, and you're with me, when I had to travel, when I was going through my divorce, I was starting a nonprofit from scratch, basically, from the ground up. I was doing a lot of traveling, and I had Rainey, full time for a year, and I had to rely on a lot of people to help me out and watch her while I was gone, and I still apologize to her today.
For what?
For the traveling, for having to leave her. And me and you talked about this. I deal with the guilt of that. I deal with the guilt that I feel like I should have been at home more, instead of trying to balance home life and work life. But without work, I can't support home.
Right.
So it was a tough decision.
Right.
So I struggled a lot with the guilt of leaving her. Leaving my daughter, especially at that time. Going through a divorce, issues with her mom. But starting a company. So to this day, I tell her, I apologize for that. And she's let me. She's like, Dad, it's okay. I understand. I get it now. I get it.
It's your thing that
it's
you're
my
carrying.
thing that I have to get over. And it's one of those things.
She's not remembering.
Exactly.
She's not bringing it up.
But I used
daily.
to apologize to her for that all the time. I apologize if I got angry with her, and it wasn't justified anger. It might not have been about her, but at the time, she did something, and I blew up about it, where I shouldn't have gone to that level. Oh, I got a perfect story, and this just happened recently. My daughter, Rainey graduated college. She's a nurse, full time. Works at University Hospital in the ICU. Saved up enough money to buy her own car. So the car she had was in Dad's name.
And that was like the car she got at like 15, 16?
Yeah, 15 years old. She had it, and I told her that car has to last you all the way through college. Once you get through college, you can buy your new vehicle because you'll be self-employed. So within 6 months of her new job, she saved up $10,000, had a down payment for her car, and it came time to trade in the car. So she calls me from the Toyota dealership. Dad, I'm going to buy a 4Runner. I need you to come down and sign the title for the car. So what does Dad do? He gets down there. He gets in there with the finance guy. Oh, no, I can get a better deal than this. I can do that. No, I'm not signing this car over. We walk out of the office, and Rainey chewed my ass out. Dad, I got this. This is my deal. I want to do it. I already have my budget. I have my down payment. I just need you to sign over the other car for part of the trade-in.
Right.
And I looked at her straight, and I was like, you know what? You're right. I totally apologize. I am sorry. Walked back in the finance guy's office and said to him, sir, I apologize. My dad, I was being a dad. I came in, and I shouldn't have. She has this.
Where do I sign?
And I walked out, and I apologized to her. Wow. So even at this age, because your job is to protect them, and then it comes to a time that you realize, I've done my job.
Do you feel like that has created, now that she's 22, she has her job, working, full time, has her career, she's early stages of it, she's got her relationship, right? Like she's doing her thing, and she's doing great. But do you feel now that element of vulnerability, that it's brought you guys closer, that you guys can communicate with one another differently?
For me, it's been different because mine and Rainey's relationship has always been very close and very, very easy to communicate.
Okay.
She's come to me with a lot of hard subjects that I wasn't ready for. And I even reached out to my stepmom, who was wonderful, my sister, for advice. Because I didn't know how to handle it as a man. How do I talk to her about this stuff? And there was a lot of female issues. And she felt more comfortable coming to me than her mom. So I felt that as I must be doing okay type of moment. Me and Rainey's always been close. And I think the thing that I realized with raising her was the two things that she really needed, a kid needs, is structure and discipline. Kids will gravitate to structure and discipline and feel secure. They want to feel secure. They want to feel like they're taken care of. And they can use you as an excuse. No, I can't go to that party because my dad's crazy. He'll show up. I can't, so it gives them a buffer, a boundary that they know, okay, I can test the waters with him, but he's not going to play that.
So for context, can you hear that? No. So for context, I've known Rainey since she was 5. That was the first time I met her, 5 years old. She's now 22, so 17 years have gone by. And so to me, she's like my little sister. But sometimes I feel like, I'm also like her second dad. Not that she calls me or does anything like that, but I always feel like I have to look after her too. And I never forget the time we were at your house and Rainey was there with a friend. And it was at night. It was probably like 9 o'clock at night. And we're in the house and all of a sudden somebody came like banged on the door, on his front door, just banged on the door. And it was like aggressive. It wasn't like hey, somebody's at the door knock. It was like bang, 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 bang. So then he and I go and we look out the door, we open the door and nobody's there. So then Rainey and her friend were like, oh, who was that? Whatever. So you and I went into this mode. We went back into military mode where I'm like, you take the back, I'll jump in the car, I'll meet you out front. Whatever. We're cruising around the neighborhood at night looking for this kid. And it was that instinct of where both of you, you and I both were like, we got to look after her. Who's at the territory? Who's who's here right now? I just remember that was one of those moments that was so vividly and Rainey's in the house with her friend and she's like, you two are ridiculous. You two are ridiculous. Yeah. That was probably some of the kids just messing around, right? That was no big deal. But
they never came and knocked again.
They never came again though, because they probably saw us literally with lights or whatever and driving around the neighborhood because no one ever came back again.
They never came and knocked again.
So I've seen your relationship with Rainey and the way that you guys are now, right? Like you said, she already comes to you, but she calls you now just on her way home from work or, the weekends or whatever. What do you attribute that to? I mean, because you could have yes, you've done a great job as a father, right? And that you're one of the examples that I always look at and I try to follow and that model and then try to, create my own model of it, right? But what do you attribute that element of being able to connect her as an adult now?
But it's like what you're doing with Belle now. It's communicating with them and being honest with them. I think a lot of parents are scared to be honest with their kids and tell them, hide things from them. They don't want them to know that, well, I messed up when I was a kid or I did this when I was a kid. I was always honest with Rainey. And I was always honest with Rainey that I did I used to tell her, no matter what you did, I did it 10 times worse. There's nothing you're going to do that's going to surprise me. I did it 10 times worse. And I got 2 brothers and a sister that can verify it. We can verify it. So I think the biggest thing is always being honest with the kids and being open and communicating with them. I used to tell Rainey, I'd rather you call me. One of the deals we had when she was in high school, if you're going to go out drinking, you call me. You don't drive. You call me, I'll come get you. Because I'd rather get a call from you than the morgue or the police.
Right.
Call me.
Right.
And I'll come get you. If you don't call me and you do get in trouble, then we're going to have issues. But it's just having that open communication and just in treating her with respect and treating your children age appropriate. A lot of parents see their kids as 8 years old all the way, even now when their kids are grown up, they still treat them like they're 8 years old.
Right.
Treat your kids age appropriate and get used to the idea that they're growing up. I heard a great quote the other day. you only have 18 summers with your kids before they leave home. 18 summers. Because then they go off to college. And when after college is gone, they're starting their own lives. And you're an empty nester. So you better make those 18 summers count. Because that's all you have, really. And then you're going to go through the stage also is when, and Belle's going through that stage now, preteen. You know, before preteen, they want to be with you all the time. They want to hang out. Now it's about, can I go do a sleepover? Can I go to their friend's house? You're traveling with teams for softball or volleyball or whatever. And then high school comes and they start driving. They start doing their own thing. They don't need you to take them everywhere. And then they go off to college and you become that empty nester. So you better figure out, you know, have your kids in your life and communicate with them, but figure out what you're going to do when you become the empty nester also.
Right.
Because you put your whole life around them, but you also have to have outlets for yourself.
Right.
And I think the biggest compliment I get, and I even get this from you, because I consider you like my kid, is every morning I get 2 text messages every morning. I get one from you, and I get one from Rainey. I get kissy faces from Rainey, and I don't know if I can say this on the podcast, but I'm going to say I get first thing in the morning. That's our term of endearment for each other. So I get the you and I get the kisses face from Rainey, and I know my kids are okay. And then I get it at night before we go to bed.
I want to give you 1 MF a day.
Well, at night you say good night, or we'll say something.
Yeah.
Gives me a kissy face.
Oh, okay.
But and I'm sorry, I get teary eyed. But that's you know, I can't talk to her all day long. She works 12-hour shifts.
Right.
She's in ICU. I can't be bugging her. She has her own life. She's got a fiance now. I'm gonna pretty soon have a son-in-law if he doesn't act up and I don't have to kill him. You know, Cody. So, but you know, those little things where she knows Dad's there. Right. I know she's okay. That's all I ask for.
But like, how did I mean, you as a parent, right? You're like you talked about that story at the dealership, her getting in her car. I mean, your role as a parent is constantly evolving, right? Like, I mean, of course, when they're toddlers or whatever, like younger, they need you so much every day for basic things. They get older, they start, you needing you a little bit less, right? And then of course it just continues. The challenge that I see in a lot of parents, and I think my mother struggled with this, was the fact that no, you have to be the baby. I have to do all of these things for you, instead of allowing your child to have some ownership and some stake and saying, I don't necessarily need to be everything and anything for you. I just need to just show up and listen to you and support you and encourage you.
I feel now my relationship with Rainey, my relationship with you is we're friends. She's my best friend. You're my best friend. She's like my best friend. Like we can go do things and hang out. We can go to concerts together. We can go to baseball games together. We can go travel on vacation together and have a drink together. It's changed from them being dependent on you, that they're learning the independence. Now they're really independent. And if you did your job right, that's where they should be. They should be totally independent. They shouldn't, she has her own paycheck. She doesn't call Dad for money anymore.
Isn't that nice?
Oh my God, dude, I'm rich.
Isn't that nice? That's nice.
It's like fixing the budget. the deficit is gone. But you go through those cycles, and you have to be prepared for those cycles. And she's getting married next year.
Right.
I'm gonna walk her down the aisle, and I'm proud of her. She's very. I raised my daughter, and I told Cody this when we started dating her. I raised my daughter to be strong, independent, and to in some ways be like a man. Because the world, and I'm not trying to be sexist, but the world's harder for a woman. So I trained her, or tried to teach her to be hard. Right. Hard in a good way. Yeah. Stand up for herself, have a voice, and she is. You know how she is. And she put Cody in her place.
She took that lesson to heart.
Yeah. And so I feel good that I don't have to worry about her. God forbid something happens to me right now. I know she's okay.
Right.
I know she's okay because she is strong and resilient, but I also know that she has you. She has other people in her lives to take care of her, to help be there for her, to fill that void if Dad's gone. But, she'll even tell you, we're best friends. Yeah. And I love the relationship we have now because of what we've gone through to get to here. As a parent, you have to be invested in your child 100%.
Right.
Your child shouldn't have to be invested in you. You should be invested in your child 100%. It's your responsibility to educate them, train them, and teach them between right and wrong. If you're not doing that, then you can't blame them for the person they become. You can't blame the schools. You can't blame the teachers. You can't blame society. It's you. It starts at home.
You know, man, I've, you know, like I said, like I really tried to replicate a lot of the way that you raised Rainey, and with my own daughter and my own kids, and you know, just the way that you. Although I tell people like you're my best friend, you really are like a father figure to me. You were the first one to really, like I said earlier, you taught me how to say I love you to another man, embrace another man in a hug, and it doesn't have to feel uncomfortable. It can be genuine. It can be, you know, just genuine. I mean, there's no other way for me to phrase that. It just has to be genuine from the heart, and you don't have to feel awkward about it, right? And I know now I really try to pass that on to other friends and other people that I come in contact with, other especially males, where I'm like, I love you, man. And there's one specific friend recently who, you know, we lost touch for a long time. We, you know, recently came back, and I'm helping him through his own stuff. And, you know, I've been ending conversations with, man, I love you. And I know the first couple times I said it, he kind of paused, like, and you know, and then, okay, I love you too. You know, he just kind of threw it and kind of throw away. But now he's like, hey, man, I love you. Now he'll send me a text, man, I love you, man. Thank you so much for whatever it is. And I'm like, man, you know, that's what I'm here for, right? And so I just thank you, man, for, you know, being the man that you are, being the father that you were and that you still are, for being an example for me. Because like I said, I mean, you're the guy that I started looking to and understanding, like, that's the type of relationship that I want to have with my kids. And then especially once I found out that I was having a daughter, I was like, oh, I'm definitely leaning on you, you know, to guide me in this new space, because it's something brand new for me. But I just thank you, man. I love you, motherfucker. And, you know, just thank you for, you know.
You've been, I can honestly say you've brought so much joy and love into my life, and especially my daughter's life.
Yeah.
You've been there for Rainey, all the hard things that we went through, and my divorce, and you've been there through it all. The deaths, you know, I mean, surgeries, we lived a lifetime, and you're an amazing man.
Well, man, I just, you know, I thank you, because I know that in 9 years of Belle's life, I know that through my own journey, going to therapy and working through a lot of things and identifying the origin of a lot of, you know, the stuff that I was projecting on. I remember, I never forget calling you one time after I sort of kind of guilted Belle one evening and telling you, like, oh my God, I'm doing this, right? And you were there to listen to me and say, okay, you know, you identified it. Let's not repeat it now. Let's figure out how we get to the source and eliminate this. And, you know, I never forget that distinct memory as well, that situation, because I know that I was starting to repeat the same pattern, the same cycle. And I realized that in that moment, I wanted to break it. I called you and I wanted to share that with you, because I felt like I had that epiphany in that moment. And, you know, you've always been the one to kind of allow me to understand how to become a better father and a better role model to, you know, to Belle and of course to future kids. So again, man, love you.
Happy Father's Day, brother.
Happy Father's Day. Love you, man.
Love you.
So, as you can see, I am joined right now by somebody a little younger than me. This is my daughter. This is Lauryn Anabelle. We call her Lauryn. Well, we call her Belle ever since she was born. But now that she's getting a little older, she's like, call me Lauryn. So you might hear me reference Lauryn or Belle. At the end of the day, she knows who we're talking about. And now you know who we're talking about. But I wanted to bring her on this episode to, you know, as again, this is Father's Day. And, you know, she said something that was so pivotal, you know, when she was around 5 years old. She told me one day, we were in Colorado, and we were, you know, I was there for a speaking engagement, and I was like, all of us, you know, we're all going to go. And so we're in the car, and I'm taking them up to this mountain. We're going to go hiking, and it was a beautiful day in Colorado. The windows were down. It was probably like 75, sunny. And we're jamming out, having music. And I just remember we got to a stop sign. And when we got to this stop sign, out of nowhere, I don't know, at least I don't remember why she said this, if we were talking about something, but out of nowhere she says, Daddy, where's your daddy? And I remember my wife and I looking at each other like, how do I tell her? How do we answer this question, right? And I just felt, you know what, let me just tell her. And I said, well, sweetie, he wasn't ready to be a daddy. And I don't know him. And she said, after she took about, maybe 5 seconds of a pause, she said, well, I'm really happy you are ready to be a daddy because you're an awesome daddy. And as you can imagine, like I was like, that hit me right here, right in the heart. And I wanted to just have you on this episode to just talk about, your experience with this knucklehead of a daddy that sometimes, as mommy says, it's almost like I'm your older brother because I'm...
Most of the time.
Okay, let's not get too crazy, all right? But I agree with that because I'm always giving you a hard time. I'm always like, we're always going to mommy, and you're always like, mommy, daddy won't leave me alone, or daddy's messing with me.
He did this to me.
Yeah, that's usually what happens. But I guess one of the things that I really wanted to like learn from you is and understand is, when how do I frame this question? So interesting, like interviewing you, like talking to you. This is brand new to me, and I know you're a little nervous too, but you don't have to be. But how do you like? I mean, how is it? Like when you think, like, do you remember even saying that to me when you were 5? I mean, that was so long ago. It was 4 years ago. No, right? No. When you see me as your dad, like, what do you like? What comes to mind? What are some words to describe me as your dad? Like, what are?
Funny.
Funny. Okay, that's good. See, another funny thing.
Sweet.
Aw.
Kind. And
if that's all that comes to mind, that's all that comes to mind.
All that comes to mind.
One of the things that I know that, obviously no parent is perfect, right? I know that I'm far from it. And one of the things that I know that I sometimes tend to do is I become, I tend to get a little, sometimes really short, and I get upset, and I'm really hard on you, right? Like I'm really hard on you sometimes about different things. And I've tried to be better about listening and, taking a step back and, what has been your experience? This is your opportunity to almost like tell daddy the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Like, so what has been your thought process and your experience with, when I tend to do that sometimes? Because I know the sweet and funny and kind thing, that's all good. What are the things that sometimes you're like, man, daddy, like you used to do this and but you haven't done it, or you still do, or?
One thing is if like something I'm trying to explain to you, or something that, or even if I'm just talking to you and you're in a bad mood or something like that, you kind of almost like don't listen, but you kind of just are in a mood, so you're not like really like thinking about what I'm saying.
Oh.
So you just go on, you're like, yeah. And it's almost like when I'm trying to explain that, it's hard because it's like you're not really, because you're in a bad mood. And so, it's not even sometimes about me that you're in a bad mood. It's sometimes something else happened that you're mad about, or you're in a bad mood. So it's hard to like talk to you when you're like that. So, yeah.
Do you, when I do, because when you're telling me this, I'm like, oh yeah. Yeah.
I do that.
Yeah, that's a thing. Like, what do you do in that moment? Do you just say, I'm not going to talk to him, and then you find another time, or do you just still try to talk to me? Like, what?
I just like try to like, if I'm still talking to you, then I just try to like ignore the fact that you're not like really listening. But if I just stop talking to you, because I do that sometimes, then I kind of just like go away, and I'm just like, I'll talk about it another time, or because I'd rather like get you to understand what I'm trying to say than just have me saying it and then you don't really understand. So when I say it like another time, you're like, you never told me that, because you're kind of...
I'm not listening. So you're like, well, let me just wait until he can actually process, listen what I'm actually saying to him, and then, what versus he's not paying attention, so what am I talking to him for?
Yeah, it's like I'm talking to air.
To a wall.
I was going to say a wall.
One of the things that I'm curious about is, I remember a couple years ago when we lived in New York, I think it was 3 years ago, so you would have been 6 years old, and we'd left brunch, whatever, and we were walking to the pier, and I remember I was holding you, I was carrying you, because it was Father's Day, not that you needed to be carried, but I was like, I just want to carry you, I want to hold you and hug you, and I remember that as we were walking, I looked at you and I said, I love you so much. I want you to know you're the best thing that ever happened to me. And I said to you, I'm sorry that if sometimes Daddy gets really short, impatient, I get a little upset. And you told me, it's okay, Daddy. And I was like, no, it's not okay. And I remember, like, as I was carrying you, I took my other hand and I grabbed your face and I was like, it's not okay.
You've done that to me a lot.
And because I want you to know that, again, a lot of those instances when I
don't mean it.
I don't mean it. It's not about you. It's not like you've done something. It's work, or it's somebody else that irritated me. It's something else in the world. And unfortunately, it just happens to be you come into the picture at that moment.
And you're already angry.
I'm already upset about something, and I'm just unfortunately projecting it and displacing it onto you. But I also want you to know that it's not okay for anybody to really speak to you in that way and to think that, oh, all I got to do is just be like, you're fine, you'll get over it, or I'm sorry, it's okay, no big deal. No, I want you to know I'm sorry.
And you don't mean it.
And I don't mean it.
And I know that, and I know that you would never say something to me that was really rude and just never say I'm sorry or something. You were always gonna be like, oh, I'm so sorry that I did this. I want you to know that I didn't mean it, and all these things, and that makes me more happy to hear you saying that, because in that moment when you're angry and you're kind of taking it out on me, not taking it out, but basically.
That's basically what it is.
And I just kind of feel like I'm making you mad or you don't love me or something. And then when you say, I'm sorry, I already got angry from this other thing. And I was already angry when I was talking to you, so I just took it out on you. And it really makes me happy to know that you were angry on somebody else and you actually like me. And so yeah, that makes me really happy when you say those things.
Do you feel like I apologize?
Yeah, you do. I mean, you apologize, and I'm not saying that you have to do it more in the moment that you're being rude or something.
Right.
That you need to apologize, but you do apologize every single time we get into a fight, or you're like, I did this wrong and I did this wrong or something, and you're like, and I like that when you're apologizing to me, you're like, I know I did this wrong, but I just want to say that if you're going to do this next time, make sure you do this. And you help me think about, oh, I was a part of this and I shouldn't do this because I'm a part of a reason that it causes fight. So maybe I should not do this, or not do this when I'm around him, or tell him or something. Because that helps me realize that makes you mad, so I don't do it around you. Oh,
that's okay. So it does kind of work.
It does.
You've never told me this. This is the first time we're having this kind of conversation, because the reason why, not only do I apologize, one, I want you to know that, I made a mistake. I'm not perfect. It's okay to apologize, because it is something that I have to work on. It is something that it wasn't.
But you've definitely gotten better on it.
Well, thank you. But also, too, I want you to also understand, how to read people. I I want you to learn as well, because as you get older, you're going to have your friends, you're going to have teachers, you're going to have coworkers, you're going to be in a relationship one day maybe you have kids of your own, and you're going to have to learn how to look at somebody and understand, okay, they feel like they're in this space right now. Maybe I should learn how to come around and communicate with them so it doesn't potentially irritate them more, or let me step back. But not to run away from that.
Talk to them later.
Right, but not, like I said, not to completely run away from the aspect of, I'm never going to talk to them. It just maybe I have to approach them differently right now because of the situation.
Maybe say something different.
Right.
Or say the same thing that you were going to say, but with different words.
Right.
So it doesn't seem as, like, I don't know what the word is, like rude or
Right.
something that irritates them.
That's, I always spend a lot of time, really thinking about, and it's hard, right? Because, you being an only child, even though you're about to have a sibling, we don't know what it is yet, a boy or a girl. We're going to find out in August. But, I'm so proud of you, of the young lady that you are and that you're becoming, how you're growing, how smart you are, but then how, nurturing and loving and how you listen. I mean, listen, God couldn't have given us a better child. He pretty much said, here's an incredible child. Don't screw this up. That's pretty much what he did. And I think we're doing an okay job of just kind of keeping you in the right direction versus allowing you to venture off, right? But what are some differences that you potentially see with maybe some of your friends, parents or fathers, and where you're like, man, I wish my dad maybe did that?
Let me think. I don't really, one thing that I do is that if I'm like, oh, my dad does this, I like this, that maybe one of my friends' dad doesn't do.
Oh, like what?
Like, if I'm trying to think of the things I've thought of that.
Like examples, yeah.
Like, if sometimes you could turn something that was like from a time or something into like a joke.
Like something bad, or like just...
No, just anything, basically.
So I'm like always like joking around, in other words, yeah.
And some other parents are more strict. And I like that, like sometimes you could be like that, but then you're also very like fun and things like that. So I like that a lot. Because some other parents are always strict.
Yeah. So one of the things that we do is that when she's upset, we, and they know she's upset, I always go to my wife and I was like, oh, babe, look, that thing is happening to her face again. And that literally is what happens. She starts to laugh. She starts to smile. And it's a way for me to kind of get you out of a little bit of this funk. It doesn't mean that you're going to completely forget about it. It just means that in that moment, you're able to create a little bit of laughter. You're able to, just like forget about whatever the thing is that upset you or disappointed you. We also are pretty, we spend a lot of time doing TikToks too. Yeah, she got me on TikTok. She was the one that said...
One of my friends.
Well, no, you got me on TikTok. Your friend wasn't in this house and said, Daddy, download TikTok and let's do some of the dances. Maybe your friend told you, but then you came to me and said, let's do this. But that's one of the things that I want, is I want you to feel comfortable where you can come to Mommy and I, and you can tell us anything that you got to tell us. You can communicate with us. You feel like you can have fun with us, right? Like you know that we're always going to be there for a laugh or for a cry, whatever it is. And I want you to know that you can always approach us for that thing, whatever it is, whatever you feel, you can come to us, right? Mm-hmm. What are some things that you think that you maybe want to, tell me?
What do you mean by that?
Like if this is your opportunity to tell me some stuff good, like I said, like just to continue to expand, like what are some things that maybe you're like, I really like that we do this. I don't like that we do this.
It's one of those things where I have to think long and hard. I have to use the in them.
Oh, well, it's better than her likes. Like.
Have I done that so far?
You have not done that so far, which is actually a great thing. Are you really thinking about not saying like? Is that why?
Kind of.
Ums are okay. Ums are better than like. As long as you don't say like every other word. I used to say a lot when I started speaking and doing interviews. Yes, that's exactly what I used to do because I wasn't confident or sure what I was speaking about. And so I had to watch myself and then figure out what's the replacement. What do I say instead of a right? And so that's what I started doing, is just replacing it with other stuff and becoming more confident in what I had to say. So that's something you'll develop over time. So if you say an here or there right now, it's totally fine.
Okay. Something that I love that we do is I love that sometimes we could, like, if, like, we just did it a couple of days ago.
What do we do?
It's good thing.
Okay.
It's a good thing. Don't worry. Like, we could be, like, just doing something random and we're like, oh, we should do this. And then we just go out and we do the thing. Like, a couple of days ago, we went and ordered some remote control cars.
Oh, yes, we did. They haven't come yet, which is a little disappointing.
Better come.
They will.
Better come soon.
Yes.
So I like that we could just be doing anything and just think, oh, let's have a little bit of fun. And we could put like a little bit of fun here, a little fun there, and we could spread out all these things that brings us joy.
So like our ability to be spontaneous and adventurous, that in the moment we just think of, let's go do this. And then we go on this adventure and we're always off. Because we're always, like in our family right now, there's 3 of us, right? And within,
5.
Well,
5 of us.
Who are the other 2?
Romeo and Ellie.
Yes, so our pups too. So yes, so there's 5 of us. But in our family of 5, we're always like laughing, right? Like we're all, either you and mommy are teaming up on me, or you and I are teaming up on mommy.
Like even if we're all mad at each other, it'll probably be like that for about an hour, and then somebody will just be like, "What are we gonna have for dinner?" And then we just all start talking about laughing.
We just start laughing, right? But you're right. Like I can't wait for those remote control cars to come, because I mean they're like.
Such joy.
Brings us joy, right? We hope so, right? We hope that they really do and they're that good. But, I love that you like that, because one of the most important things for me in being your father is I try to spend as much time with you. So as you know, and I know we've had conversations, and sometimes it's conversations where I'm like getting on to you and I'm telling you, I don't have to go and do those things. I don't, but I want to do those things. I want to be present with you. I want to spend quality time with you. Do you ever see that? And how does that make you feel, like when you feel like we're spending quality time together?
Yeah, I understand that when we're doing something fun together or doing something like that brings us joy together, to not basically like mess it up. I don't think those are the right words.
Maybe not.
But to kind of like make the most of that moment, because who knows what's going to happen in the next moment. So to make the most of the moments that make me happy, that make me sad, that make me mad, just because those are a part of life.
It's a part of life. Where do you feel like you learned that?
From making the most out of things. That if I realized that I got mad a couple days ago because of this thing, or because of this random thing, I'm like, why did I get mad about that? That's a pretty dumb reason to get mad about.
So you have those conversations with yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and you're having them when we're either in the car together or you're in your room or whatever.
Like whenever Mama asks me, she's like, "What are you thinking about?" I'm like, "I don't know."
Oh, that's your deep thought.
Mm-hmm.
And
whenever I have like nothing to do, or I'm just kind of like nobody's home or something, and I'm with the dogs or anything, I just start thinking about that. I'm like, why
we're getting a little insight into your brain.
I'm like, well, why did I think about that? And why did I get mad about that? That's not a good reason to get mad. Or that's not a good reason to get upset. Or I guess I should be better about this because doing this makes myself mad.
Is that hard for you to talk to yourself and say, you know, Belle, why are you acting this way? Belle, why did you get so upset? Is that, I mean, that's
sometimes
it's
it
hard.
depends on what I'm talking about. Like if I know that it wasn't a good reason, but then there's some things where I'm like, it was a good reason, but then it wasn't.
In the moment, it sounded like a good reason or felt like it, right?
But then I realized, wait, why did I do that? I was like, that's not a good reason. Why? So it's sometimes hard because I'm like, I thought that was good, but it's not, or something like that.
This is why we always say that there's like a third adult in the family at 9 years old because of this. I mean, you know, I remember that there was like, you know, a couple years ago, there was a phase where you were like coming home and giving mommy like and me inspirational, like, you know, literally speeches.
That was last year.
Okay, it was last year. Never mind. It was last year. But you were you constantly talking positively to us and telling us, well, think about it this way, think about it that way. Where does that come from?
To be honest, I have no idea.
It's just you.
It's just, yeah, I guess it's just me.
Because I know that you witness mommy often talking about, you know, feelings and, you know, you hear me talking about feelings. Does that something that resonates with you when talking about your thoughts, talking about your feelings, maybe thinking about things from someone else's perspective? Don't just take the way someone's acting and say, well, that's just who they are. Well, maybe thinking about...
Or like if somebody's like, well, somebody like, I'm sad or whatever, like I'm just not going to be like, it's okay, whatever, just get over it, or it'll be better soon, because you got to think about what are they sad about. I mean, they could be sad about their lollipop dropping, or they could be sad about something more serious.
Right. Well, a lollipop dropping is pretty... That could be pretty serious. You have bad luck. She usually... Tell them about your bad luck.
So, a couple times, I did it today.
Did you really?
So, basically, so I've gotten ice cream a couple times, and so I got it on the cone, and then just walking, and all of a sudden, something happens, and boop, falls on the floor, and then I have no ice cream, and usually we get another one, but still, it's very, very sad.
Yeah, it is sad. I mean, that hurts the heart. But it happens a lot, and like especially like with her, like lollipops, always, right? Like you always get to the very end.
It's like this one piece. It's the best part of it. The best part.
And she gets so excited, like, "Oh, Daddy, look! Now I'm at the end." And then what happens? Boop.
Like today, what happened was I was having like what's it called? Granola bar, and so I went and I opened the package. I had like 2 or 3 bites, and it's about this big, so I only had like it up to here. And then I went to go take the rest of the wrapper off and throw it away. And in my hand, instead of throwing the wrapper away, I threw the bar away. And then I had the wrapper in my hand, and then I was like,
the granola bars in the trash can.
And I was like, no. Like that's happened to candy. If I have like a piece of candy, like when you have to untwist the paper or whatever, and I open it, I grab the candy and throw it away instead of the wrapper.
It's that's why we have to buy multiple, not because she gets a lot of candy, because we know potentially she's gonna end up dropping it or throwing it away, so we have a backup for her. That's the reason. Yeah, she has no cavities. Trust me, she's good. It's because of that reason only. I love that you're able to process a lot of this stuff. I love that you're able to learn a lot of this stuff. I think it's great that Mommy and I are trying to have this conversation with you, and
Okay.
that was it, literally. You might as well create a fake sneeze now, because everyone's waiting for you to sneeze. Create a fake sneeze. Just sneeze. No, but you got to do it in your elbows still. You still. Yeah.
I feel like I gotta sneeze. Okay. I'm good.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Oh my gosh. So it just went away.
Yeah, like you know that.
Because what's the thing that.
in your nose?
Yes.
And then you'll be like about to sneeze, and then you don't sneeze.
Because what's the thing that you say you do? You stare at a light? No.
Oh. Yeah, what do I do? I think I stare at one thing, and I'm just like.
Do you breathe like that?
Don't sneeze. Don't sneeze. Don't sneeze. Sometimes if I have to sneeze and I have to be really quiet, I just go like this.
Doesn't that hurt?
No.
Because I'm very self-conscious about the way that I sneeze. Yeah, it's so obnoxiously loud. I really am self-conscious, and I tried one time to sneeze like quiet, like to be like quieter, and it hurt my brain. Yeah, and I was like, because I didn't do this though. I just went. I mean, I don't think it's healthy to do that. Like,
No, neither do I.
but how do you do it and it doesn't
I
hurt?
just go like here and I achoo.
So you like
I do
breathe,
it with
like you
coughing
do.
sometimes too.
You do it what?
Coughing.
I thought you said you do it with confidence. I was like, oh.
I do. I do it with confidence.
I was like, that's why I'm not doing it well, because I don't have confidence when I do it.
I do it with coughing. I cough inside my mouth. And then just swallow it.
What are you swallowing?
My cough.
Air? That is
Pretty much.
that is wild. So I have a question. I don't know if you're ready to talk about it in front of them. But we were cleaning your room not too long ago. Cleaning up your room. And well, first Mommy found like a seltzer water can up there, which you know you're not supposed to have in your room. But we're not here to talk about that. But we found a backpack that had some stuff in it.
So, that backpack
Let's talk about this backpack.
is my runaway bag. Pretty dumb idea, I know. But if I don't know where I'd be going. Probably go down the street and then back and be like, I went to Canada. I left the country. But I don't know where I would go. But I still have a runaway bag, just if I ever get mad. And
But what made you like create a runaway bag? Like what?
I don't know. I think I was just like really mad. I don't know why. I just think I was really mad one day, or something annoyed me. So I was just like,
I'm leaving.
away.
Like,
I think I have some money in there.
Did you think in that moment, I'm packing to literally walk out this house now,
No.
or I'm packing for a future if they do it again?
I don't think that's the right word to use there. But I wasn't thinking, I'm leaving this house right now. This is for right now. I was just thinking, this is for other times that I get really mad. So I just leave.
That's
I just be like,
hilarious.
I'll be right back.
And then we were like, oh well, you know. And she was like, no, just put it back in. So we put it back.
Just
So
throw it
it's
back there.
it's in there. Like it's whatever her belongings are. I know there was a sweatshirt. We found a sweatshirt because you know, in case you
There were,
get cold.
2 shirts and like a sweatshirt. And
Do you have any pants?
Yeah.
Okay,
and
good.
then,
That's.
like, shorts maybe. But
But what if you go somewhere cold?
I
You got to
have,
put
like,
jeans in there. I think jeans would make more sense.
I have like books.
Oh, that's good. At least you're going to keep your reading up.
I have like a paper and like a pencil. No, I think I have like a tiny little notebook and like a
So you can leave us a note saying I'm out. Is that what it's for?
But and then I think I have like probably like $10 in there. I don't know.
Oh, that'll get you not far.
Probably have one meal.
Maybe. I mean, the way you eat, barely.
So yeah.
Well, you know,
I don't think I'll ever get to using it.
I hope not.
And even if I try, I don't know where it'd go.
Where would you go?
Probably like the backyard.
This is the only place.
Make like a little camp.
Yeah, we'll just leave you there. If we see you out there, we're like, oh, she's got a tent up or whatever. Let her
And
be.
then if I see one bee, I'll just run inside and be like, I'm back.
Yeah, you will. She'll see one creature. Although you like creatures.
Not like, if I see a frog or like a lizard, I'll invite it into my camp. But if it's like a wasp, invite it.
If it's a wasp, it's
like
like,
a wasp or a bee, I'm like, burp,
bye.
close my thing.
And then you're back in the house.
And then I'm just gonna tumble all the way back into the house. And whenever like I see like a bee or like a fly somewhere, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but I always go, wait. The reason why is, this has always been a fear of mine. I've never wanted it to go in my ear.
In your ear? Why? Like,
So,
where did you get this thing that would go in your ear?
I read a book one day. I think it was a Dr. Seuss book. Yeah. And so basically it was like this bird or something, you know, their rhymes or and he couldn't hear. And he went to like a doctor or something. And there was a bird in his ear. So I've always been afraid that there's going to be something in my ear that's going to, I don't know.
To do what? Create a nest in there? What do you think is going to happen?
I just feel like, you know when your ears are like not popped and you're like this and then you can barely hear? I don't like that feeling at all.
But what's that got to do with the bee going in your ear?
Because it might make me feel like that because and what if it's trapped in there?
Oh, no.
So I always go like this or I move around or something so it can't land on me too. If that's a better reason.
Okay, the landing makes sense. The whole getting inside your ear and like setting up shop.
Scary.
That's, I mean.
What if a bee just went?
I think it would go whoop. Because it's not like it can like keep flying inside and get inside your brain.
If it's like a.
If you're swimming and water gets in your ear, doesn't it stop? It doesn't go in your brain.
I don't know.
It's water. And if water can't travel to get into your brain, do you think a bee...
I don't think a bee's gonna get into my brain. I just don't like that you can't like hear with like. I hate when water's in my ear because you can't like hear.
But I don't think a bee is gonna like go in your ear and then stop there.
I know, but what if it can't move any more farther, so it stays here?
It's gonna leave.
What if it can't leave?
How is it not gonna be able to leave your ear?
It's not big enough. Don't ask how it got in then.
But
'Cause I don't know.
you just answered your own question.
It probably like was able to like squeeze to get in, but then it couldn't get out.
Okay, cool. All right, that sounds great. So, yeah, but to pivot a little bit, you know, one of the things that I really wanted is I wanted you to, first of all, we've been talking about wanting to do an episode together for a while, right? We have. We've actually, huh? She really has wanted to be on the podcast for a while.
I'd be this nervous.
You didn't think you would be this nervous? Are you still nervous?
Kind of.
Are you really? What are you nervous about?
I don't know. I feel like I'm just gonna. I don't know. Like I'm gonna mess up or something. I don't know. I
Yeah.
really don't.
It
I
happens.
just feel nervous.
Yeah, it happens. Like I used to feel nervous when I first started doing this. You're overthinking it. That's all it is. Just relax. You're good. But listen, I feel happy that we finally made it happen, that you're here, we're chatting. I know this is the Father's Day episode, and I just want to tell you that I love you so much. I love you so much. And I am so proud of the young lady that you are, and I know that you're going to become this amazing adult and this you're just going to become an amazing individual. I know it because you already are an amazing individual. And I love you so much. And I just thank you, as we always talk about, for you picking me to be your daddy, because you were the right thing that I needed in my life at that time, at this time, at another time, because you were a blessing that came into my life. And I am just so just honored to be your daddy. And I think the only way we should finish this is with our handshake. What do you say?
I say yes.
This is what we do. So ready? All right.
Better not mess
Don't mess this up.
You always mess up.
I do mess it up, but you do too.
Really?
Accountability. You got it? Ready? Here we go. That's why you're taking deep breaths, because you're nervous.
No.
Ready?
5, 6, 7, 8.
We murdered it. We murdered it. Good job. I love you, sweetie.
I love you.
Love you, corazón.
Love you.